In the words of the Jefferson, Terence Crawford, well, I guess we're moving on up. Terence Crawford looks like he will be moving up to face the winner of Amazon Prime's very first pay-per-view main event. Now, Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora. And we're going to talk about it. Terence Crawford at 154 pounds. We got a lot of moving parts here. So make sure you guys subscribe to my channel. My name is BOXINGEGO. I've been covering boxing over 10 years. The best in the business, and it's not even close. So yesterday it was revealed that Keith, one time Thurman, you better not duck me, Thun. You better not. I'm coming. He's out. His original fight with Tszyu now been canceled. The fight has been canceled because Keith Thurman is injured with a bicep injury. So therefore he's unable to perform and to compete in 2 weeks. So PBC and Amazon Prime, they were forced to do something and make a decision. That decision was to take and pull someone who was already on the card, on the undercard, and raise them to the top. And this is just brilliance from PBC to frequently in like big fights and scenarios keep somebody else in the same weight class as the main event. In the event that one of these things happen, somebody fails a PED test, somebody's sick, somebody pulls out with injury, you have a contingency and a backup plan. That's exactly what they did. And I can now confirm Tszyu will fight Sebastian Fundora, who's like 6'7" at 154 pounds. In case you do not believe me, boom, PBC posted this graphic. You see Keith Thurman, of course, has been replaced. And now it says Tszyu Fundora, the co-main event doesn't change. Rolly versus Pitbull. So I think this is a hell of a save. Now, in addition, the fight you see on the screen, the main event, it was already for, actually, there's so many moving pieces, and this is why I'm trying to give you guys all the details. Originally, the Keith Thurman Tszyu fight was at a catch weight, so it wouldn't have been for the WBO title that Tszyu has. It wasn't going to be a title fight. However, they did state that Tszyu, if he were to lose to Thurman, he would lose his belt. But if Thurman were to win, it wasn't a sanctioned fight, so the WBO crown and belt would not have been up for grabs in that particular fight. So it was basically a one-way street. Tszyu could lose his belt if he were to lose to Keith Thurman, but Thurman couldn't win the belt if he were to beat Tszyu, right? Now, the WBO champion Tszyu, his belt will be on the line because he's fighting an actual 54-pounder who the WBO has decided to, approve for this fight. So Tszyu Fundora will not only be for the WBO belt, but the WBC has jumped in and said, okay, since he's not fighting a former welterweight in Keith Thurman, who has kind of been inactive and had this long gap of employment, where he hasn't been in the ring, we'll approve Fundora because he's a ranked person. So now the vacant belt, which was vacated because of Jermell Charlo is a champion in recess, that belt is now up for a grab. So a lot of moving parts, like I keep saying. Keith Thurman out, he's injured. The fight with Tszyu wasn't even a title fight when it was Keith Thurman, but now it just became a two-belt fight. Now that it's a replacement opponent, because that replacement opponent has the proper credentials or rankings, despite coming off of a loss to Brian Mendoza, which is a guy that Tszyu last beat in Australia, down under, right? So Fundora is still a dangerous fight. He still has the height and reach over really all of his opponents. And despite coming off a loss, like, I think it's being overstated that he lost, right? Like, people keep saying, oh, but he lost. He's coming off a loss. How does he get a title? Yada, yada, yada. Stop it. Stop it. George Kambosos has lost to Devin Haney twice after getting the titles from Teofimo, and he's fighting for a vacant belt with Lomachenko. Nobody seems to care unless it's a PBC fighter. When it's PBC, everybody's angry and things like that. So I'll make a separate video. I got something about that. But the double standards are absolutely ridiculous. I like Tszyu versus Fundora. I did want to initially see the initial fight, Keith Thurman. I'm a fan of Keith Thurman, but if his body's not holding up and he's not able to compete, then of course, why would I want to see that? Why would I want to see a guy not at his best, who's been on a long layoff, who's been plagued with injuries like Derrick Rose almost? You know, if he's not fit to fight, he's not fit to fight. This Tszyu Fundora promises to be kind of like an explosive all-action fight where somebody's definitely getting stopped or at least dropped or hurt. Like, I don't see any other way, personally. I don't see any other way that this can really go down. So I like the fight. Is now the stakes have gotten greater. It's a 2-belt fight, and enter Terence Crawford. And this is why you guys got to stay tuned to the end of my videos so you get all the information. Enter Terence Crawford. Now, we know Crawford beat Errol Spence Jr. Hey, stop that kid. Man down. Last year. He's been inactive since that. He only fought one time a year for the last several years, right? That's just the reality. But nonetheless, that was probably his greatest performance in terms of what it meant. Eminem ring walk. You might see me jogging. You might see me walking. You might see me walking a dead Rottweiler dog with his head chopped off in the park with a spike collar, hollering at him because the son of a won't quit barking, right? The whole package, the whole shebang was what Errol Spence threat level was, how he was perceived. It was for undisputed. I mean, come on. Crawford has been undisputed before, yes, but he was in a division that wasn't as popping. And to become undisputed at 140, he ain't beat no Errol Spence. I should know, because I was there. He fought Julius Ndongo, who, yes, he had 2 belts, but the man from Namibia wasn't him. Errol Spence was. So props to Crawford. Great performance. Prove me wrong. But now it has been decided that Crawford automatically will be the WBO mandatory, and I'll explain how that works. So this is Ring Magazine, right? Tszyu Fundora moves forward. Terence Crawford looms as the WBO mandatory to face the winner. So why am I saying this? Why are they saying this, right? So this is an excerpt from the actual passage, and I want to read it to you from the article on ringtv.com. For the WBC, that would mean a title unification bout between Tszyu Fundora, and then Boachuk is now fighting Brian Mendoza on the undercard, which I've already went over. That fight stands little to no chance of happening given the magnitude of WBO mandatory. Ring welterweight and pound for pound king Terence Crawford. The Ring has confirmed, this is the part, pay attention, hey yo, this is the best part. The Ring has confirmed Terence Crawford has enforced his WBO super champion status during a visit with the sanctioning body last month in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The designation allows its claimants to immediately challenge for a WBO title at another weight class. Crawford has not fought since his career best performance, 9th round stoppage over Errol Spence. Boom. So What does this mean? Crawford was in Puerto Rico, where they're headquartered, for the Jake Paul fight. And he received some kind of like ceremonial, he received some kind of award or something at the WBO. During this time, Ring TV is now confirming that Crawford has elected to push forward as the super champion in the lighter division, welterweight, that he wants that winner of that fight. And I'm sure, knowing what I know about Crawford, if it was Keith Thurman and Tszyu, it didn't matter. Actually, this proves that he wanted to fight Keith Thurman, Tszyu winner, because the Jake Paul fight happened some weeks ago and he had petitioned. So this was before he knew Keith Thurman was going to drop out. So basically, Crawford has his eyes set on moving up. He's done what he's done at welterweight. And weeks ago, he was wanting to fight Tszyu versus Thurman winner. But now Keith Thurman yesterday, as I mentioned earlier in this video, he's out of the fight. He's pulled out of the fight. So I doubt that it changes now that it's not Keith Thurman and Fundora, because we don't even know if Fundora wins. You know, Tszyu could continue to win. So that's one of the opponents that Crawford, when he requested this and when he chose to enforce his mandatory slot, he knew Tszyu was a potential winner. So he likes the Tszyu fight. His team has talked about this. Now, again, if Fundora wins, I think Crawford would still want, because it'll be a person with 2 belts, and Crawford is looking for big fights, and he's looking for fights, you know, to continue to etch his name, I guess, in the history books. So make sure you come to my channel for real boxing news, less clickbait. A lot of y'all was wrong. You know, a lot of people was in the comment section. Y'all type me these comments, and it's like National Enquirer. It's just like a bunch of fanatical boxing fans guessing and doing like guessing. Don't come to my channel expecting guessing. I don't do guesswork. You know, I'm surgical with this bit. Jake, I'm real surgical. Like, this is not like a guesstimation channel, you know, just where I don't know how else to say it. Like, I give you accurate news, but a lot of people, they live like fantasy boxing. Like, oh, if Mike Tyson pulls out, then Jake Paul can fight Evander Holyfield. Like, you just made that up. You see what I'm saying? And the same situation with this Crawford situation. I seen people leaving, like, boxing fans, they love to do this, where they'll leave these comments about what should happen. Like, Keith Thurman pulls out with the injury, and then they'll say, oh, but Crawford, he's gonna fill in for Keith Thurman and fight Tszyu. Why would Crawford do that? Why, if you're as known as Crawford, you want to give yourself the best fighting chance to win. You didn't get to go to Colorado Springs. If the fight's in 2 weeks, why would Crawford step in to fight Tszyu? It made no sense when he can just do what he just did and enforce his slot as the WBO super champion, and then automatically face the winner of the fight and give himself a full camp. So again, a lot of y'all do just a ton of guesswork and throw things out. Just throw ish on the wall, hoping that something will stick. It made no sense. I told you in yesterday's video, you could check it. My words never lie because they've all been recorded. The most dangerous thing is the camera and the microphone, right? So all the people who are like, oh, Keith Thurman's out, Boots needs to step up. Boots got his own stuff going on. He's not at 54 right now. And then some people threw out the name Crawford, said, oh, you know, Crawford needs to fight Tszyu on two weeks notice. Who wants to give themselves 2 weeks notice when you could do it the proper way and give yourself the best chance to win? You know what I mean? So that's one thing that y'all was leaving in the comments. Scrap that, right? And in case you don't know, the way this works is when you're the WBO super champion in a division underneath, you move up, you can enforce your spot as the super champion, the WBO super champion. In the new division that you move up to, you can enforce your spot as the previous WBO super champion, and become the mandatory, right? We've seen it with Usyk. That's a great example. Usyk did damage. He was the man. He was undisputed, just like Crawford, at the cruiserweight division. So when he made the leap to heavyweight, you know, he took maybe 2 tune-up fights, but then he was immediately enforcing his mandatory on Anthony Joshua. Then he ends up fighting him and beating him. So that's how the WBO super mandatory situation works. You were the man with their super belt in the other division. So when you move up, you pretty much have dibs on like fighting the champion in that new division. That's how they play it. So Crawford in beating Errol Spence, and he already had the WBO belt his very first fight at welterweight because he beat Jeff Horn. So now as he moves up, he has that he can enforce the mandatory, as I mentioned. But again, a lot of the National Enquirer fantasy fans, y'all said, oh, but Crawford, he should step in for Keith Thurman. Dumb. Doesn't make sense. Why would he do? You don't even know what Crawford's doing. He could be on vacation with his family. Why would he give himself 2 weeks to prepare for a guy like Tszyu? It's not that he doubts his skills. It's just not a smart plan when you could go through it the right way, finish, you know, live your life, because you didn't know Keith Thurman was going to pull out of the fight. You had no knowledge of that. So what you do is you put in the request to enforce your mandatory, and then now they must fight you. The winner must fight you, and you have proper time to train. So it never made sense. Now, another thing I seen you guys guessing in my comment section is when Keith Thurman was out and Tszyu, you guessed, it said, oh, Boots should fill in, Crawford should fill in. But the other thing y'all were saying was that somehow Errol Spence was going to fight Tszyu. That's the other comment I was commonly reading, right? Oh, Errol Spence, he's going to get the winner of Fundora and Tszyu now, or he was going to step in late notice and stuff. Where did anyone get that? No one said anything about Errol Spence. I can't wait for his return. We don't know what Errol Spence's next move is. So it's like, again, don't come to my channel for guesswork. I'm telling you what it is. I'm showing you the sources, and it's also being reported by credible people. Like, this is the writer that's now with Jake Donovan, that is now with Ring, right? So that's the latest. See, Jake Donovan, right? That's the latest. Crawford will be the mandatory for the winner, meaning the winner will likely have to face him, Terence Crawford. So he's planning on moving up. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Gang.